In section 8-2, we're going to be dealing with equations with two variables. Let's look at this first problem. Susan is starting a babysitting job. She currently has $10 in her account. Each week of babysitting, she earns $5. Let's look at the equation first. Here's the $10 that she already has in her account, and then here is the $5 that she will earn each week. When we solve problems like this, we're going to start by setting up a t-table. When we do a t-table, the x value goes first on the left-hand side, then the y value. When I create my t-tables or complete my t-tables, I like to write the equation above the t-table as well. Y equals 5x plus 10. So in this case, we're going to try some numbers for x. Let's start with 0. I can't start with -1 because x is actually the number of weeks of babysitting, and I can't work a negative amount of weeks. So for x, we're going to start with 0. At 0 weeks of babysitting, Susan has $10 in her account. How about for 1 week of babysitting? Well, I take the $5 per week times the 1 week, and then I add 10. Of course, following my order of operations, that says I'm going to have $15. I'm going to do the same with the others. Now, instead of 1 week, it will be 2 weeks. So that would be 5 times 2, which is 10, and then 10 plus 10 is 20. So for 2 weeks, it would be 20. Again, instead of 2 weeks, I want to know how much it will be for 3. 5 times 3 would be $15 plus the $10 that she had in the account to start, and that would be for 3 weeks. I would earn $25. Once I have these t-tables created, I'm going to be asked to graph them. Since these are all positive numbers, our entire graph will be here in quadrant 1. I'm going to count these by 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go ahead and count our y's by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. Now it becomes very simple to graph this t-table. The first point is 0 and 10. 0, 10. I can write that as an ordered pair. 0, 10, which means at 0, I don't go to the right or the left, and then the y-axis I go up to 10. The next ordered pair on my t-table is 1, 15. So I would write that as 1, 15, which means I go over 1 up to 15, and then continue with 220 and 325. This now, I can draw a line to show the graph of my equation. So this graph shows that for 3 weeks, it would be $25, and it shows us for each week how much money we make. Let's look at some similar examples. These are a little easier. Y equals 3x minus 2. When we get to simple problems like this in algebra, we might do things a little different than we did with the babysitting. One step stays the same. We label our t-table, and we write our equation above it. But now, I'm going to ask that you always use numbers for x that are always the same. I'm going to ask that you use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Pause the movie now and copy this equation and this t-table so far into your notes. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to do. We know that in each of these, we know the x value. We know that x is going to be -2, then it will be -1, then it will be 0. It's going to change values each time. Our job is to figure out what the y value will be. Some of you might actually need to write this in your notes. So 3 times x, because the equation says 3x. Instead of multiplying 3 by x, I know that x is -2. So I would write this as 3 times -2 minus 2. This is where we need to make sure we remember our integers. 3 times -2 is -6. -6 minus 2 is -8. So the y value for -2 will actually be -8. Let's try another one. This time, instead of the x being -2, the x is going to be -1. What will that look like? 3 times -1 minus 2. 3 times -1 is -3 minus 2, which is -5. Pause the movie now and try to finish this t-table on your own. Hopefully, you got -2, 1, and 4. Now, we're asked to graph these points. Pause the movie now, create a grid like this one here, and try to plot the points on your own. When you start the movie again, you can check your answers. Let's see how you did. Let's start with -2, -8. I'm pretty sure that this isn't going to fit on our graph, but I should have gone to the left 2 and then down 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's going to be somewhere way down here. Now, because I don't want my graph to look too messy, I'm going to get rid of those lines that I made. The next point is -1, -5, which means I go to the left 1 place and then down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, I don't want to make too many extra marks on my paper. The next point is 0, -2, which means I don't go to the right or the left, but I go down 2. Next point is 1, 1, over 1, up 1. And then the last one is 2, 4, over 2, up 4. Whenever I'm graphing an equation, I always know that I'm correct because my answer or my graph should come out to be a straight line. If for whatever reason it doesn't turn out to be a straight line, then you know you've done something wrong. Take a minute now to make sure you have this graph and this t-table in your notes. Let's move on. Sometimes we won't have an easy equation to deal with, and we're going to have to solve for y. In this example, I'm going to have to use inverse operations. I have -2x to get rid of the -2x so that y is by, to get rid of the -2x so that y is by itself, I'm going to put a +2x on both sides. Now I have y equals 2x plus 1, and that's an equation that I know how to graph. Again, we put x and y on my t-table, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Pause the movie now, copy this equation, Complete the t-table and try to graph the points before continuing with the video. Let's see how you did. Since these first ones deal with negative numbers, I'm going to write this out. So instead of 2 times x, I know x is negative 2. So this is going to be 2 times negative 2 plus 1. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. So this will be the point negative 2, negative 3. Well, now we've got to try the same thing again, but instead of negative 2, it's now just negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. And as I continue, 2 times 0 is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Now let's see how you did on the graph. The point negative 2, negative 3 should be over 2, down 3, negative 1, negative 1, 0, 1, 1, 3, and then 2, 5. Again, I'm pretty sure I know I did my graph correctly because it turns out to be a straight line. Double check your notes to make sure you have this t-table and this graph completed correctly. Now, I would like for you to solve for y. In some cases, you already have y by itself, and then create a t-table and graph for class. We will check them tomorrow.